Jack, I hate this topic, man. I'm not even gonna lie. I dislike talking about this team because it just feels like this has been going on for a very, very, very long time. Like I'm an Arsenal fan, and you know the pain that Arsenal have been through. You know, this just seems quite repetitive week in and week out. Maybe the fact is that there's so many Manchester United, let's say, former players on these different networks like BT and Sky Sports, but I don't even want to say what the hell's going on with Manchester United because we know what's going on. It's like same old, Jack.
Yeah, I think what I will say though, mate, it feels a little different this time. I think before it was kind of bubbling under the surface, and then there was like, oh, they finished second with Solskjaer, or like, oh, they won a Europa League, or Mourinho, they finished second. So it was always like, yeah, like it's not going as well as it was before, but like they're still doing something. They're still somewhat competitive. This does feel different. Um, the calls for the ownership change, the like just the results like of like a truly embarrassing nature. It's not just games they should be winning, them drawing and like being like, oh boo, like no, it's like no, you'll get embarrassed by teams who do not have any sort of the infrastructure or like financial availability that you do. um but I think what I want to like open up with is just like to try and defend the situation a little bit, because I hear a lot of people being like, oh, it's Manchester United, they got all this money, they got all this stuff. I want to largely just echo what Gary Neville said. um you know Old Trafford is not in a good shape, is not in good shape. Manchester United need a new stadium. They either need to build a new stadium, that's going to be expensive. And, again, James, this isn't like they're building the Amex where they need a 20,000 seat. No, like they're probably going to need an 80 to 100,000 seat stadium in Manchester for Manchester United. That doesn't come cheap. Training facilities still need upgrades. So, and it all comes back to ownership. 1.5 billion pounds has been taken out of Manchester United, and any money since the Glazers have taken over, and any money that they've actually had to be able to use, that's coming from fans. That's coming from season tickets. That's coming from merchandise, from all this kind of stuff. The Glazers are sucking this great football club dry. And James, I was talking to my dad about this. There was a time when Nottingham Forest, who played today and won, right? They were winning European Cup finals, and they were doing well in the domestic football. Leeds, Newcastle, there were all these teams, right, who were great. And you've thought, at the time, you'd have thought, these guys aren't going anywhere. If something massive, a change of ownership, something very serious doesn't change for this football club, we could be talking about Manchester United like we talk about Leeds, like we talk about Newcastle, the sleeping giant thing coming up. Because the
Uh,
idea that a team is too big to fail, well, yeah, a team is too big to fail, but only if you operate appropriately. This team is not the problems at this football club, and I've seen so much on my Twitter feed from Ralph Rangnick, Mourinho, like the people who've been in the positions of power, who've said the like problems at this club and how how extensive they are, and how they're just being proven right over and over again.
um, I get it. Stadiums, training, all that sort of stuff there. But Manchester United is Manchester United. They still put out amazing kits. They still do all that sort of stuff. They're commercially massive, Jack. They're always going to be massive. The Glazer stuff, to me, I'm a bit 50-50 on it because I do understand
Just
the
very,
point.
very quickly, my point about the finance thing is this is a team that should be the biggest team in the world, and it's not even close based on what they did, the success they achieved, the early commercial success they had. They're being beaten now in revenue by Manchester City, and that will continue. So all those points you said are absolutely spot on, but it's not going up and staying at the top like it should be. It's slowly ebbing down. And very, very slowly over time, we're going to see this team disappear into mid-table kind of football team.
We say that. I'm an Arsenal fan who I got agreed with the people who were in charge because they weren't pumping money into the football club for us to sign players. Jack, the fact of the matter is, this is not me just making a claim right here. Manchester United has, since Sir Alex Ferguson's left the football club, I think Manchester United has spent the most money, over £1 billion spent on players. Like, what more could you ask for? The fact of the matter is, the biggest thing, Jack, I do get it, but the biggest thing right now for this team is that it's poor recruitment on every scale. And then then I look at it from the point of view of player attitude. Jack, we mentioned we're a big fan of Roy Keane, and he says the simple things. run back, work hard. If you lose the ball, work your butt off to get it. Jack, the difference between Brentford and Manchester United's running stats was 13 point, I think 7 something kilometers. Jack, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That is a lot right there. And it just tells you a bunch of football players who don't have it in there. Jack, you don't need anything to run.
No.
Yeah, you don't need anything to, once you lose the ball, that, like, listen, that mindset and that aggression to get it back. I'm sorry, leave the Glazers out of it for a minute. Take pride in yourself. I know what, like, we all know what you're like. If you play football and you see somebody just take the ball off you, just brush you aside, or just go past you with ease, do you know how embarrassing that feels?
But
I'm
James,
seeing
I know what you mean, and I take your point, and you're right. You are right. But the problem is, recruitment team, operations, executive level across the whole club has not been touched, restructured, built to create a winning project. That's what's happened. So again, Harry Maguire, peak Leicester. I'm going to say that's probably a 35 to 40 million pound player, right? That's what I would probably go for, because I just see an English defender. There's nothing special about him. He's a big physical guy. For some reason, the recruitment team thought that would be a good fit, and financially they signed off on an 80 million pound transfer. So again, anybody can say as much as you want about money being spent. If money's being spent in the wrong places, then money's not really being spent in the right places, if you see what I mean. That's kind of the problem here. There is no direction in this football club. And I remember seeing somebody on Twitter as well. Sir Alex Ferguson players, I think there's 2 left. Then David Moyes players, there's a bunch left. And then next manager, a bunch left. There is no cohesion or aim towards a goal here, because all that happens is it's the same recruitment staff who've been struggling for a very, very long time. Next manager comes in and they just bring in players, and it's just this hodgepodge, trying to throw it all together for players who do not fit a commitment to a style of play.
Listen, Jack, I don't doubt that, but you have to look at what we see right now. Is this Manchester United team, when you actually look at the names, and let's just take it from the fantasy point of view, is this team like what? A team that should be losing 4-0 to Brentford? No.
Well,
Jack, when you look at, like, when you look,
you say that, but like, again, if you look at the actual like scouting of some of the people who have been in and around some of these teams, and you actually look at the talent of some of these people, somebody like Moises Caicedo there, right? If you're like eyeing up who would you prefer, a Scott McTominay, a Fred, or a Moises Caicedo, you're taking Moises Caicedo. Like that's who you're doing it from a scouting point of view.
But my thing is this: Jadon Sancho, Marcus Rashford, yeah. Like, I'm even gonna say to a certain point, Harry Maguire, compared to the Brentford defenders, he's probably better than them. David De Gea, there's some very, very, very good football players here.
Right.
And the fact of the matter is, in my opinion, they're letting themselves down. Something's gone on at the background for them not to be pulling up and actually turning up. Jack, last season, halfway through, Manchester United gave up. They gave up on a season. And we sat here, Jack. I sat here when I did the predictions after watching them play so well against Liverpool. Said, you know what? We always knew that this was a good, not great. This was a good Manchester United team with some really good players there. Maybe they're going to show up this year. What is the problem? Why is it that they can't? Jack, forget about even perform. Yeah, I'm talking about have the desire just to turn up and play well. It's these common things.
It's a cliche, James, but again, I think it goes back to the upper echelons and the structure of this football club from recruitment. It's a cliche, right? You have to have the right mentality to play for Manchester United. Now, I'm not trying to single out Manchester United. You need to have the right mentality to play for a big club. That's what that means.
You have to have the right mentality to play football in general, Jack.
Well, that's true, but there is the added pressure of being, arguably the biggest, if not one of the biggest football clubs in the world. There is an added pressure and an added scrutiny to that. So you need to have the right type of players. They're not signing the right types of players. Like, James, I'll give you a great example, a little bit of an aside. I only realised this recently when they mentioned it in commentary. Everton really struggling at the moment. Do you know what they've done? They've signed Connor Cody, who's a Premier League captain, and they signed James Tarkowski, who is a Premier League captain. And those are the 2 starting centre-backs for that football team. Do you not think that dressing room is going to have to kick up the arse? It seriously needs to progress and continue going forward.
I don't think so.
No, well, I do. I think that will change things at Everton. I really do. But my point is, there's a pride thing going on, and again, it's the structures of the club. And James, the Glazers, they have to go. These are leeches of English football. And again, a lot of people, I know it's a lot of fun for people to make fun of Manchester United in the position that they're in and the fans. And again, like, trust me, Manchester United have had their fun over the last 30 years. Like, it's time for them to do some suffering. It is.
Listen, just go back and watch our Premier League years from 2013 all the way back to the first year in 1992. It's Manchester United. It's disgusting. But, they took the piss.
They did, but the problem is, James, they're taking money out of this football club and they're not putting it into football for the academy, for the next levels. They're not adding into certain positions where they can do this, and that. It's not going to be trickling down into the lower leagues of football, which is what we like to see, or we hope to see. It's just being straight up removed from the football club. This ownership is toxic, not just for Manchester United, but for the Premier League in general. And again, I'm not against American ownership. We've seen what Todd Bowley's done already. We've seen what FSG, Fenway Sports Group, and John Henry have done at Liverpool. This ownership, the Glazers, they have to go. And James, I'll be honest with you, it's going to, this Monday, I think it's Monday, right? This Monday game against Liverpool, this walkout of Old Trafford thing, this is a big one. That's the reason why I think this is a different gravy than, because you and I, what did we get to January next year, and you and I privately went, right, I'm done with Manchester United, I'm done talking about them, because it got to a point where it's boring. It feels different this year. It does. Jack, in a bad way, by the way.
We haven't even talked about Erik ten Hag, because I'm not even gonna lie, to a certain point,
he's a class manager.
I feel sorry for him, because I feel like he's coming into this situation and realize, okay, I got a serious job on my hands, and we don't know what goes on in the background.
James,
to me, there's clearly
open heart surgery is what Ralph Rangnick said.
And Jack, I was listening to Rio was on Filthy Fellas, and he was talking about when he was at Crystal Palace, and they said one of the Crystal Palace players mentioned that he's on 60 grand. I'm on 60 grand a week. Why do I need to come into training? I don't know if those sort of conversations go on in this Manchester United training in the Manchester United dressing room. Now, if that's the case, then oh my days, there is a serious issue there, because the way they gave up last season for a team in the standard of Manchester United was disgusting. And I look at somebody like Cristiano Ronaldo, and I don't like the way he kicks up a fuss. He does this, he does that. No. But there's clearly something going on that he himself has a problem with.
Well, James, this is not the club he left however many years ago. Like, I think that's for certain. And again, I think to your point about Erik ten Hag, I think Erik ten Hag is, apart from Jose Mourinho, I think Erik ten Hag's probably the best manager since Sir Alex Ferguson left that this football club has had. Since, obviously, apart from Jose
and Van Gaal.
I think Erik ten Hag's a better manager than Louis van Gaal. I do. I think that I think he has more progressive ideas. I think his ceiling is higher than Van Gaal's ever would have been. But the point is, we can't just blame the manager on this one. Any Ten Hag out people over the next couple of months or couple of weeks or whatever, you have no idea what you're talking about. Far too many talented, experienced football managers have entered this football club and not done well. It is not up to the manager in this scenario. And again, James, as much as we can always talk about the players, right? Culture is from the top down. If the ownership doesn't represent the right thing to the key decision makers and doesn't put the right people in the right positions to make this club a success, then it's always going to fail. And and their silence is absolutely deafening. And it'll be fascinating to see what happens for this Liverpool game.
I'm sick to death of talking about Manchester United. I've got to a point right now where watching them suffer is a little bit uncomfortable to me now. I kind of want them to sort of do well. I can't believe I'm saying this as a man who's seen Manchester United. To see Manchester United dominate football, English football, for many years, winning trebles, winning three-peats, and just winning doubles, everything like that, Champions Leagues. To see where they are today is a shock, because I've been an Arsenal fan for a long time, and I've seen the Wenger out stuff, fans fighting with each other. I haven't seen anything like this before. I really haven't, and this is beyond belief. But
what I will say though, mate, Arsenal last season, 4 games, 3 losses.
Yeah. No,
I think Man United can afford. Man United can afford maybe one more loss. I think we can enjoy one more Manchester United loss, and then
Listen,
we can hope that things change, right?
if anybody gives up, if you're a Manchester United fan, you gave up on a season already. Shame on you. There's still so much to play. There's still so much to be achieved.
100%.
A lot can change, but the first thing that needs to change is what's going on in the background there. I'm talking about players, staff, and also getting in the right transfers, because all this dilly dallying with Frankie De Jong, listen, if he's not going to come, move on to the next player, get him in, get this team set. But Manchester United fans, I want to hear from you. Football fans, I want to hear from you. Tell me how happy you are to see Manchester United fail. Please comment down below, guys. This is Box to Box Football, and we will see you next time.